some pretty spicy NBA drama going on right now amidst what has been a very exciting and really cool playoffs. I mean, we've had a bunch of game sevens and a bunch of big performances, big letdowns, all that kind of stuff. But what I'm talking about today is the ongoing beef between Draymond Green and Austin Rivers. And for anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to start from the beginning of where this all started. But also, I want to apologize. There are some guys working on my roof right now in my apartment. So if you hear all that construction noise, I apologize. But I had to make this video. Like I said, for anyone that doesn't know about this story or what's been going on, let me explain. About a week or so ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago, Draymond Green talked on his podcast about his experience playing with Steve Kerr. And he said a lot of great things, a lot of very positive things. But he also mentioned something that was very fascinating, how he was like, listen, Steve Kerr, he's great, but he kind of held me back offensively a little bit. Like, he hasn't drawn up a play for me in a very long time. I feel like I could have been a much better player offensively if it wasn't for Steve Kerr. And that blew so many of us away, because Draymond, for anyone that knows who Draymond Green is as a player, he's one of the greatest defenders of all time, one of the most versatile defenders of all time, and one of the smartest, highest IQ basketball players that I personally have ever seen. Here is essentially the clip that started all of this. This is what I was talking about earlier. I just wanted you to see it for yourself and listen to what Draymond had to say.
He's such a unique person. There's things he's done that I can never forgive him for. And yet I will do anything for him. When you spend 14 years with someone, when you've had the runs that we've had, playing the role that I've had to play and being who I've had to be, some things like that are going to happen. Everything hasn't just been one way. It hasn't just been like, oh man, Draymond did this, Steve's mad. I don't take that any way at all. Speaking of this December thing, I spoke to him after that and it was like, I don't think you like me. I don't think you've ever liked me, if I'm honest. Like, he cried. Really? However, what he's meant to me in my life, what he's taught me in my life, just telling him in our exit interview, the things that he's taught me about being a winner, I'm not sure where else I could have got that. I played for Tom Izzo, and Steve just took that to a completely different level, and especially showing me things about this level and winning. Like, I could never repay him for that. It's so important to who I've become. As much as he's done for me in basketball, a part of me think he's hindered me in my career and what I could have become. When KD came from 2016 on, I have not had a play in our playbook. Not a single play that we run for me in our playbook. This is 2016. But if you're going to take one gripe and not be able to move past it for all the other things, then you're shallow as a person. That says more about you as a person than it does about Steve or whoever else.
So, okay, that's essentially it right there. And again, it was fascinating when it dropped and when he said it, because he does, again, say a lot of very nice things about Steve Kerr and how much he has helped him as a winner, as a person, all that kind of stuff. But to mention that aspect of it as if like, oh, Steve Kerr is the reason why I'm not this as an offensive player or this as a scorer, I just don't. I don't know. I don't think it really makes too much sense for me. But again, it's just Draymond. It's his opinion. It's how he looked at the situation or how he continues to look at the situation because he's still on the team. And as of right now, Steve Kerr is still the head coach of the Warriors. So again, that's from Draymond's side of it. And Austin Rivers, he saw this clip and he had his own response to Draymond and what he had said. I'm going to pull it up right now. It's from the Dan Patrick show. Let me see here. So here it is. Here's Austin and what he said. You can see the quote up at the top here. It's ridiculous. Draymond has such a high IQ. That's a big part of his game, is how smart of a basketball player is, excuse me. So it bewilders me that he even thinks like this. Anyways, let's watch some of the clip.
Green on his podcast had this to say about his head coach Steve Kerr.
Oh man, I knew this was coming.
As much as he's done for me in basketball, a part of me think he's hindered me in my career and what I could have become. When KD came from 2016 on, I have not had a play in our playbook. Not a single play that we run for me in our playbook. This is 2016. But if you're going to take one gripe and not be able to move past it, all the other things, then you're shallow as a person. That says more about you as a person than it does about Steve or whoever else in that instant. You got to take the good with the bad, man.
Can he be right in both cases that he wasn't featured at all? But, I mean, how do you feature Draymond Green?
Feature him doing what?
I don't know.
Feature him doing what?
I'm trying to be fair to the context of this.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's utter ridiculous. And you know what's shocking? Because Draymond has such a high IQ. That's a big part of his game is how smart of a basketball player he is. So it bewilders me that he even thinks like this, because it's like, Draymond, them taking a chance on you and them playing you and Steve putting you at the forefront of that offense, making you be the point forward and kind of the, letting you allow you to have that voice and the freedom to have your, whether it's the spasms or when he loses it, or to be the emotional leader of that team. Steve let him be who he was. So to hear he was hindered, especially Draymond's never been an offensive score juggernaut. He's left open 80% of the game. No one guards him. And because he's such a high IQ player, he's been able to take that and be a free screener for Steph, Clay. He's been this enforcer. He does all these things defensively to dominate. I don't know what way he was hindered and why they would ever draw plays for you to score. You were never.
Okay, so that's kind of the gist of it. That's what, Austin, that's his opinion. And honestly, I don't think there was anything wrong with how Austin, how he gave his opinion on the matter, because it's kind of how a lot of people have looked at Draymond the other years. I mean, to be fair, Steve Kerr has let Draymond get away with a lot, and we all know that what we're talking about there, with all the antics and some of the dirty stuff that Draymond has done, but also being that offensive force and facilitator for guys like Steph, Clay, KD, the whole team, basically, Steve Kerr allowed him to do that. And frankly speaking, he has had multiple opportunities to score and, put up some decent numbers on the scoring front of it, but he misses shots. He's not a great three-point shooter. He's not a great shooter in general. And again, I feel like we've seen Draymond have opportunities where he could be that. He just wasn't, because he isn't. And I don't know, maybe that's just me, or maybe that's just Austin, but that's just how I feel like most people have seen Draymond and how they've seen him as a player. Now, with all that being said, for anyone that knows Draymond Green, you'll know that he doesn't stay silent for this kind of stuff for very long. If someone calls him out, chances are he's going to say something. That's just who Draymond has always been. I've made multiple videos talking about Draymond Green and the stuff that he has said in the past and the things that he's tried to justify and all that kind of stuff. And I do have those issues with him. But as a player, I've been very consistent on this. I think he's an excellent player. It's just, again, he does say some pretty crazy stuff. And I think he reacts in pretty crazy ways. And this, I'm not going to say is no exception or anything, because again, I do think there's some validity, but you'll see it for yourself. Draymond did end up responding to Austin's comments about being bewildered, and this is what Draymond had to say.
And so, speaking of Austin Rivers, I saw he said he's bewildered and it's ridiculous of what I said. And I just find it interesting that a guy who was the 10th pick in my draft, I was 35, who's on his second act, still on act 1, he goes, Draymond, never been a scorer. Austin, you and I averaged the same amount of points in high school. And I say high school because that's when you were at your best. And then in college, he was still good. He was very featured at Duke. Because NBA careers, should he really talk about my NBA career? I'm still with my first team. He was gone from his first team in 2 years. The guy received the biggest bailout in U.S. history prior to President Trump bailing out the airlines when his dad gave him $42 million. And I tip my hat to Doc. I pray that I can give DJ $200 million or give Deuce $250 million. I pray that I can do that one day. I love how people just go take the 15 seconds that they want to take and make it a headline. But I really enjoy watching Austin Rivers be bewildered.
And obviously, he didn't really hold back under any stretch of the imagination. He took some very personal shots at Austin Rivers, and for anyone that knows anything about Austin Rivers, Draymond does make one point. Rivers has one of the greatest high school mixtapes you are ever going to see. If you have not seen Austin Rivers' high school mixtape, it's iconic, it's legendary, it's incredible, and that's what put his name on the map. And he was very good at Duke, but obviously, as we all probably know, he didn't have the greatest NBA career that we've ever seen. And with that being said, Austin saw these comments. And his response to Draymond Green is absolutely insane. Just listen for yourself.
Come on, Draymond. This is ridiculous. Seriously. Ridiculous. But you know what? I'm going to address it because you crossed the line and you were mad disrespectful for whatever reason. You've been around too long. We both were drafted in the same class. The fact that you don't have the wherewithal to do your due diligence and actually understand I was being highly complimentary of you on the Dan Patrick Show. But it's you, and I shouldn't be surprised. You always act irrationally, emotionally immature.
and your anger always puts you in hot water. So here I am having to address a video of you belittling my career. First off, Draymond, we weren't the same players in high school. I don't care about our numbers being similar. I did it at the national level, the top level. Hence why I got the Naismith Award, and I got pretty much every award you can think of in high school. I was ranked number 1, you were ranked, I don't know. So cut it out. Next. College, you actually were solid. You're actually a really good college basketball player, but it's hard to compare because I was only there for 6 months. Something you could never do. Talk about I was, one of the featured guys. No, I was the guy. I led my team in scoring. I was first team All-ACC, freshman player of the year, lottery pick. Stop. Next. The NBA, hey man, you got it, Dre. I mean, listen, I played in the NBA for more than 10 years, more than a decade, but 11 years, but I'm not a Hall of Famer like you. So I'll give you that credit. All right, you got it. But let's peel back that onion and understand why. Easy, Tiger. Okay? You have the delusion, the non-wherewithal, the irony of you saying I'm part of the biggest bailout in NBA history. Draymond, you were the luckiest basketball player I think I've ever seen, especially in modern day history. Let's talk about that. You were drafted to a franchise with a Hall of Fame front office, Bob Myers, Hall of Fame coach, Steve Kerr, the greatest shooter of all time, and perhaps the top 5 player of all time, Steph Curry, Hall of Famer. One of the greatest shooters, top 5 shooter of all time, another Hall of Famer, Klay Thompson. The Swiss Army knife himself, the guy who could do a little bit of everything on the floor, Andre Iguodala, another Hall of Famer. I know, keep up, it's a lot of talent. Not to mention one of the most lethal scorers of all time and arguably a top 10 player of all time, Kevin Durant. Same guy you chased off because of this, your mouth, you talk too much. And that's not even counting the plethora of talent around those guys. The Sean Livingstons, the Barbosas, the Andrew Wiggins, the Jordan Pooles, who you also chased off. Cut it out. Draymond, you're the backpack jump shooter. You're the guy that everyone leaves open. No one guards you.
I'm sorry. Not the backpack jump shooter, man. Like, oh man, I'm sorry. I just, like, when I heard that first, I was like, God. But so let's let him finish.
There are hours and hours and hours of film of just you being left wide open. In fact, anybody can just YouTube or Google or watch any Draymond game ever, and he's open all game. There are clips of you getting a rebound and just driving in a straight line and just getting a wide open layup because everyone's fanning out to guard the actual talent on the team. Talk about Steve Kerr ended your career. Bro, Steve Kerr made your career. How dare you? Coming at me? Are you kidding me? I wish I could give my son $200 million if I was a coach. The NBA doesn't give coaching jobs to guys who may or may not sucker punch one of the players and staff. You need to fall back, Dre. Let's just be frenemies.
Yep. And so listen, to give my sort of, opinion on this first, Austin cooked on that response. He absolutely cooked on that response. But there is one thing that I do have a little bit of pushback on, and where I'm going to come into the defense of Draymond here. And that's what he said about him being the luckiest player to have joined that organization, the Warriors, with that team, with those players and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying he isn't right to an extent. You know what I mean? Like, when you have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, and, all of those guys to pass the ball out to, and to help drive that offense, yeah, sure. You know what I mean? Like, it makes it a little bit easier for anybody, of course. But where I think Austin is wrong is that Draymond would have been a great player on any team that he was on. Now, would he have been as successful? Would he have had as many championships as he has right now? Probably not. If he didn't end up on the Warriors, I'm not sure. I don't really see him getting 4 rings on other teams, or at least most other teams, to be perfectly honest with you. But that doesn't change the fact that Draymond Green is one of the greatest defenders we've ever seen. One of the highest IQ players we've ever seen. Like, he understands the game in so many different ways. He understands how to impact the game in so many meticulous, different ways that most people don't even think or see. Because again, that's what Draymond does. So I will give some pushback there. I don't think Austin Rivers is right for saying that, like, he wouldn't have been great on other teams. He still would have been a very good player and a excellent defender. If anything, he still would have been an excellent defender. But I get where he's coming from to an extent. And as it stands right now, that's where we're at with this beef. That's where we're at with these two going back and forth. And I've seen so many different responses and so many different takes on who's right, who's in the wrong. Again, if for me, I think Austin is right in this entire situation more than Draymond, because Dre, I think, kind of took this and blew it out of proportion a little bit more, in my opinion, after what Austin Rivers had said on the Dan Patrick show. I don't think he was being as offensive as Draymond may have taken it. And then, Draymond said what he said, and that kind of ticked things to another level. But please, Let me know in the comments what you think about all this going on, because I think it's fascinating. And until next time, peace.